Right, so what are we here to learn about today? So we're going to talk about the Cambridge checkpoint examinations, right? So for those of you who are teaching primary and secondary grades, so that's pretty much grade 4 until grade 8, this is an important checkpoint examinations. I won't say that every school follows checkpoint examinations, but majority schools do conduct exams for checkpoints, okay? So first we're gonna look into what it is, and then we'll look into more how the papers are structured, etc. So we have the primary checkpoint, which usually is tested in grade 6, primarily by most schools. And in terms of syllabus, it's basically everything they learn from grade 4, mainly from grade 5, all the way up to grade 6. So grade 6 stuff doesn't come as such. It's just mainly grade 4 and grade 5, okay? So why does Cambridge do this? Well, it's basically called a progression test. So for them, it's a way of checking out whether the students are on track to achieve good grades in their IGCSE. So before the IG, basically at grade 5, they're checking their progress in primary level, and then they're checking their progress in grade 8 for the secondary level before they enter grade 9 and 10, which is ideally IGCSE examinations, right? So here we are. So if you see, what about the feedback reports? So actually the students sit the exam. So in terms of sittings, if you're going to ask me when does the exam takes place, it's usually there are 2 series, right? So it's depending on the school. Most schools sit the May series. If it's a May series, then generally they sit it at the end of grade 5. If they go for the October series, which is what most schools prefer because it gives more time over the summer holidays and stuff to prepare the children. So if it's the October series, that takes place at the beginning of grade 6, right? So what they do, they sit an exam, and this exam is for the 3 main subjects only, right? So it is for English, maths, and science. And I would say it's of a similar level to the SAT examinations that the students sit. So they kind of test the content, the thinking, and everything. And when they come from there, it basically comes down to a feedback report, right? So after 2 months or so, just like how the IGCSE results get released, the students get a direct feedback from Cambridge themselves. So these papers are marked by the Cambridge board, not by the school. So these papers come from Cambridge and done under exam conditions. They're sent back to Cambridge, who mark it and give a score. Now, the thing about the Cambridge report, I think it's best I pull up an example here to show you how the Cambridge report looks like. Okay, I think I should put feedback report maybe. That might be better. And shall I put, oh, it's basically like this, I think. This one's a good idea. So you can see overall the statement of achievement, right? So you would get something like this for each subject, right? So for English, for example, you can see they have put the subject, and you will get a score, an overall score. Now this overall score will be between 0 to 6. Okay, so obviously if you're beyond 4, that's great. And they give it in point form. So you can get in 1 decimal places. So you can get, 4.9, 3.5, etc. They give in decimal form. And then you can see the more important results that come from this assessment is they actually give individual marks for the components inside the assessment. So for English, you can see that they give you a separate mark for your listening, reading, usage, and writing, right? So they separately give you a score for that. And then the total average is what gives you the score for English. So similarly in mathematics, if I can find one, okay, so this one is for science. So you can see for science, it's basically a separate score for bio, physics, chemistry, and one for a bit of scientific inquiry. I can't specifically find one for maths, but generally for maths, it will be like geometry, reasoning, logical reasoning, those are the ones they give for mathematics as well. But I think you have the general idea there. So that is basically how the report comes in. And what's the benefit of these reports? Well, it's sort of an eye opener for the school, because the school gets reports for the class as a whole, right? So if they have grade 6 students, they know how all the grade 6 students in their school have performed in comparison with other schools. You know, they can monitor how they're doing. At the same time, they can know which teachers students have performed better. So it's more of a test for the teachers as well. And the teachers have a good idea of, you know, how well they have taught each component. So if a particular class has done bad in listening, then it might be, you know, the teacher that has not promoted listening activities more in the class as much as the other three elements, etc. So definitely it helps the teachers, and of course the students themselves get to know their weaknesses, right? So if they know that their weakness is writing, then the parents can look into putting them for more tuitions in the writing area, etc. And yeah, as a parent, you want to know where your student stands overall amongst the year group. So this is a good idea for you to, you know, take that first step towards improving your student as they approach for the final exams. So that's why it's quite an important progressive exam, and most schools do it. Some students in schools where they don't apply for checkpoint do it separately through the British councils as well. So that's also a possibility. So you can see that usually it's a learner's performance in relation to the curriculum, the teaching group, a school, and actually it looks at previous year's learners as well, right? So you can see that they provide actually different reports, right? So the learner report is what the student individually receives. Usually the whole bundle of learner reports is like arrives at the school, and then the school distributes the individual learners reports to the student. It doesn't directly go to the student's home or anything. And that's where I showed you earlier. So it's like a total subject level score and the substrand scores for each skill, and they get like a sort of a statement. Now certain schools have, you know, separate prize givings to award for the best performers, etc. Certain schools just take action where necessary, I guess. Then coming into the teaching group report, right? So the teaching group would be more for the teacher. So it will be more for the heads in the school, and it will be for the individual teachers that are teaching the subjects, right? So you can see that Cambridge gives for each subject and strand level for each teaching group. So if you all come in, you know, for grade 5 first class or something, then as a class, they will get a score for the overall subject and for the skills as well. And it'll give you a nice learner distribution across the range of scores. So, you know, how did the general class perform? And it also gives you the table of scores in alphabetical order by the name. So you know who in your class has got the highest and lowest, etc. So as a teacher, you know who to, you know, focus on going forward. Who do I have to help, and who is doing their level best already, and it's more about pushing them to higher stands. So it's really a good skill for the teacher there. And then coming into school reports. So generally the schools usually talk about this at the annual graduation, you know, that our school has performed this well in this subject, etc. So as a school itself, they do try and monitor how things are going, and, you know, they can have a look at how they've done in comparison with other schools in the same country, and then of course look into training their staff or hiring new staff, etc. So generally that's the main one. And then there is an end of series report, which primarily I guess is more for the principal to see how the overall things has been, and that will be like a mini summary of all of these to come for. So that'll be that. So basically that's everything, right? In terms of curriculum, there's nothing they learn specifically for checkpoint, nothing like that. So whatever they learn in grade 4, grade 5, and basically mainly grade 4 and grade 5 for primary, they literally learn all the content. and it'll be like you have to memorize all the content and you have to sit it, right? So if I just pull up some past papers to show you. So this is the Cambridge Primary Checkpoint past paper for English. So just like other exams, there's actually multiple papers, right? So paper 1, paper 2, etc. is there. And you can see it's pretty much like a mini version of the IGCSE papers, right? So it's a smaller version with lesser questions, and sort of getting the student customized to, you know, exams like these, so that in the long run they are pretty much aware of how these things take place. So you can see there's a bit of box ticking, question and answers. So since this is paper 1, it'll be more the short answer questions, you know, matching. And then of course there's a section B, which is a writing. So you can see they give a little bit of planning, and you can see that the mark structure is also given at the bottom of the past paper. And then you can see it's literally 1 page to write your report, right? So they don't give you too many pages also. And a bit of grammar work at the end to finish off the paper. So that's generally how English is structured. So if I just show you here, so you can see there's paper 1 and paper 2 for English. So if I open up paper 2 as well, just to show you. So paper 2 usually comes with a separate insert. So the separate insert is for reading separately, right? Like that. So it's not much, just a 2-page reading article. Of course, these exams are mainly held during the school hours. And I mean, it depends. So from what I can see, certain schools, they hold it during the school hours. And then certain schools put it like a timetable, you know, where the students have to come in specifically for the exam and go back home. So those are also there. So that also depends, and it might depend on which student you're particularly teaching. So you can see that when it comes to paper 2, the questions are a little bit longer. Still, we have more of the ticking and stuff, but you can see that in terms of grammar and all the words that are being used here is more into the specific sections, I think. So more story writing. So this one is a bigger number of pages as well. So I guess as an English teacher, you can have a look through and have a good idea of what to expect. So I'll pull up one of the maths ones as well. So for the maths tutors, they can also see. So if I see, this is paper 1. So even for maths, seemingly there's about 2 papers. In terms of past papers, yes, the latest past papers, especially for subjects like English and science, is difficult to find. We do have certain of them available on the drive and stuff, but yeah, if you need a specific year, we might have to get it off certain applications, but you could always request it through our resource coordinator, Hanan, okay? So here you can see for maths as well, it's more like circling the numbers and marking things on scales, ordering things, basic 3D shape ideas, small division questions, basic shapes. So nothing out of syllabus, right? It's all the stuff that generally students learn by the grade 5 ages, you know. It's not like parents have to push them to separately study for this or anything like that. It's the same school book. There's a specific set of books that are followed for the Cambridge series. Let me just close up these papers and show you the books as well while I'm at it. But let me pull up one science one. Don't want to be leaving out science. So for science as well, as you can see, solid, liquid, gas, again, a bit of ticking exercise, a bit of matching exercise, small 1-word answer questions, fill in the blanks and stuff is also there. And then you can true or falses, some clue answer questions. So it's all those, I don't know, if you're a science teacher, it's definitely, you'd be definitely aware of all those different types of worms and annelids and all those. So those all fall under here, right? So they use these things, okay? Right, so generally that is the primary checkpoint. And before I move on to secondary checkpoint, I do want to show you about the books. Okay, so in terms of years and grades. I don't know how many of you all are aware about the difference between years and grades and all those. Okay, so actually the grade system, which many of us follow, like if you are in grade 8, it's like year 9. So usually the year system is 1 year ahead of the grade system. Okay, and most of these 1 2 3 books, that's fine. So this is like the first year of checkpoint, you study book 1, the second year of checkpoint you study book 2, the third year of checkpoint you study book 3. This is mainly for secondary, so grade 6, grade 7, grade 8 sort of thing, right? So you have book 1, book 2, book 3, etc. Even for primary, the books are available, and if you are confused about which book to use, feel free to ask the resource coordinator or me, and we'll be able to direct you. But these books, which are the more commonly used books, especially in the Middle East and all, although the book says 7, this is actually for grade 6, because these books are in the year system. Okay, so this is actually for year 7, which is grade 6. And then you will see that there is the grade 8, 9, and 10 books as well, which are available. Okay, grade 8 and 9 books are also there. You can see this one is 9. So I already told you, right? We actually do Cambridge checkpoint exams at the end of grade 8. So it actually is not 9. It's for the grade 8 syllabus, right? But if you're following the year system, then yes, you will be sitting it at the end of year 9. So that whole grade year system is there. So please always keep it clear between you and your student, whether they are studying in a school that follows the grade system or the year system, and what year or grade they are currently in. Always keep your mind clear about that, because that is often a big confusion that comes up during our sessions, right? So going into secondary, to be honest with you, there's nothing much different between Cambridge primary and Cambridge lower secondary exams, right? So for the lower secondary, the syllabus goes from grade 6, grade 7, and then finally they sit the exam in grade 8, right? And to be honest, although the most of the information comes from grade 8, very little is, picked up and tested from grade 6 or 7. And I think as a teacher, you might be aware that all the curriculums that are taught, especially from grade 6 to 8, it's all overlapping, right? Like each year, the material that they learn is pretty much building on the skills and the topics that they have learned in the previous year. So it's not like they have to learn something new for all 3 years. So generally, all things from 6, 7, and 8 are tested in grade 8. And again, the sittings are the same, right? So still there's a May series, there's an October series, still the feedback reports that we looked at earlier, the teaching reports, the group reports, all that is there. It's all the same. The only thing you will see, so if I can see it, so these are primary checkpoint papers. Let's see if I can pull up a lower secondary checkpoint paper for you to see. Mostly lower secondary is more easier to find than the primary papers, actually, because someone or the other manages to get a copy. So you can see this one is the specimen paper for 2018. So you can see they do give reading time, right? So that is also there. For comprehension, they can read the insert and then they'll be able to answer the question. So you can see that, of course, going from primary papers to secondary papers, as you expect, the questions are more complicated, longer, and are more analytical, and the student has to read more and understand more, and of course they are expected more in the writing area as well, right? So if I just pull up the insert, I guess I think it should be a clear difference that the insert is more technically difficult to read, right? So no pictures, it's all just information, and you can see that certain grammar and words that will be used here won't be found in the primary paper as expected. Even for maths and science, it will be the same. For science, of course, things are much more complicated, more experimental based. So you can see the waves and topics like that are coming in, and classification keys, and going into planet-based work, I think. Yep, planet-based in terms of biology as well, types of rocks. So you can see the words are definitely more in line with the complications of the syllabus. Right, so that is pretty much, I think, whatever I have to tell you, I have mentioned about it regarding the exams. Do you all have any questions so far? Anything regarding the actual examination, the feedback reports? So let me see if I can pull up this as well in the meantime. But yes, if you do have any questions regarding anything I have explained today, the sittings, the actual examination. So you can see, this is the student report like we were talking about earlier. So you can see how they have split it, right? So they have given a nice overview for the student, right? So you can see this is the scale here. So like I mentioned earlier, all scores go from 0 to 6, where of course anything above 3 at least is considered a good, right? So ideally you would want your student to be above 3. I mean, most parents target for the student to be within 5 to 6, of course, but we do have children who are weak at English and subjects, so not everybody scores that. And you can see, like we mentioned, the overall and the individual grades are given. They also actually point out what you got right and wrong. So you can see what questions you answered well that we expected you to find difficult. So they actually mention areas that, they thought the students will generally do bad, but this particular student has done right. At the same time, they have mentioned areas which they have done wrong, which they could have done better. So it really gives an outward point of view to the parent, right? And in terms of what they learn, so you can see this is actually the lower secondary curriculum framework. So you can see these are the kind of substrands. So under usage, what are they actually marking? Well, they're looking for sentence structure, punctuation, vocabulary, and spelling. So these are the 4 areas that give you the usage mark. Then for the reading mark, they are looking at whether you are able to find explicit meanings, your use of language, and the implicit meanings. For writing, it's more about the content, the purpose, the audience, and the text structure, right? So these are the individual components that form the overall strand. So this is English as a second language. So yes, whether your student does English or English as a second language also depends on which school they are studying in, right? So Middle Eastern schools may have a chance of doing second language. Countries like Singapore and all, primarily English is considered as a first language. So most students would be just doing the normal one, right? And then we have mathematics. So you can see for maths, these are the 4 strands: number, algebra, geometry and measure, handling data. So you can see these are the 4. And within that, they have these sub-strands, which they group together, which I think all of you should be okay. Yes, I think paper 2 for mathematics is calculator based. So you can use your calculator for paper 2, but as far as I remember, paper 1, you can't. But you could always double check by looking at the covers of the papers and all that. But yeah, I think even for mathematics, for these geometry questions like the position and movement questions, I think you are allowed to use tracing paper if necessary to do things like rotation and all that as well, or even like network nets and folding and getting the shape. And in terms of science, so you can see, of course, we have the basic biochem phys, and then we have the individual scientific inquiry, which is more about, did you understand the experiment and work on it as required, sort of thing. So yes, so you can see this is talking about year 9, so actually grade 8. So like I said, if you have any students that you're going to be teaching for checkpoint, first thing is make sure you are confident whether they are a grade 8 or grade 6 or which grade or year they are in, whatever that is. And please use the necessary correct textbook. If you have any confusions with the right one, please feel free to ask me or Hannah, our teaching resources coordinator. We can try and guide you to use the right book. At the same time, please keep an eye on which sitting the student is sitting the paper for, so that you have an idea of, which speed you or pace you need to go in, so that you can complete the syllabuses within the time. So most parents don't specifically say that, my student is going to be sitting a checkpoint exam or etc. So if you are teaching students in, especially under the Cambridge curriculum within these grades, then automatically you can ask your student, do you all have a checkpoint examination that you're going to sit and all that. It's better for you to clarify with the student, right? Sometimes the parents itself are very confused about which is an in-class assessment and which is a Cambridge assessment and all that. But to be honest with you, in schools that these exams are offered, it's a bit of a big deal. So generally parents are well aware about it, and it's like talked about at all the parents meetings, and they are sent the constant feedback and accept stuff as such. So, and yes, generally most schools do have mock exams as well in preparation for this. So especially for the primary kids, because they are not aware of, proper exam sitting and all that, in a massive hall, they put them in the, the order of the candidate numbers. Because to be honest with you, until that point, the student wouldn't have faced something like a candidate number where they had to go and sit in a particular desk finding that number order, etc. Right? So usually the school does keep sort of a mock examination to prepare the students in advance of, finding their place, sitting down, times and all that. It's more serious than a class exam. Usually happens in an auditorium at the school or something, because it happens for the whole grade, right? It's not really class, although the final marks comes as class based or whatever. Actually the exam takes place as a whole grade, right? So the entire grade 6 will have English on the same day, etc. So again, just like IGCSE exams, there is not much variance as such for papers. So if I'm correct, if I look at these, do they have variance for papers even in okay, no, right? They don't have any variance. So that means usually the paper happens at the same place and the same time for most of the subjects. That's all. So there's no like, one country does one paper and another country does another paper sort of thing for this. Usually all the countries will be sitting the same paper, regardless of which part of the world you're in, you will sit the same paper. Right, so, oh, that's half an hour into the session, and I think I've mentioned everything I needed to mention. But yes, there's only a few of us today, so you all are open to ask me any sort of question that has arisen due to this session. Nothing at all? Nothing? Okay, nothing coming in on the chat box as well. Okay, that means I've done a good job, I guess. So hopefully, oh, they're all good. Okay, great. Right, so thank you so much for coming in for the session. I know some of you all are having clashes and difficulties to attend the sessions because of the time. But hopefully this session was quite useful to you. Feel free to let me know your feedback about the session so I can make improvements for the next batch. And yes, if you would like me to send the recording for the session, please do let me know for that about that as well. Other than that, thank you. And if there are any further training sessions, I will keep you all notified by email. Right, so what are we here to learn about today? So we're going to talk about the Cambridge checkpoint examinations, right? So for those of you who are teaching primary and secondary grades, so that's pretty much grade 4 until grade 8, this is an important checkpoint examinations. I won't say that every school follows checkpoint examinations, but majority schools do conduct exams for checkpoints, okay? So first we're gonna look into what it is, and then we'll look into more how the papers are structured, etc. So we have the primary checkpoint, which usually is tested in grade 6, primarily by most schools. And in terms of syllabus, it's basically everything they learn from grade 4, mainly from grade 5, all the way up to grade 6. So grade 6 stuff doesn't come as such. It's just mainly grade 4 and grade 5, okay? So why does Cambridge do this? Well, it's basically called a progression test. So for them, it's a way of checking out whether the students are on track to achieve good grades in their IGCSE. So before the IG, basically at grade 5, they're checking their progress in primary level, and then they're checking their progress in